We have our first guest on the show tonight. Danny Homrich of Danny Designs is with us. Danny is the inventor and patent holder of the Danny clamp system. Danny's been a solid surface fabricator for over 20 years and is well versed in time-saving methods for fabrication. Danny, come on and join us.
Well, John, as my appreciation of being a distributor for 8 years, I have made you a Danny clamp mug.
Oh, that's great. Now, you know, this is great, so now I won't have to listen to you.
That's good.
This is great. I love it. That's super. Does it do anything?
Yeah. You can actually put notes in the top up here and hang them. So, you know.
Oh, that's great, Danny.
So you won't ever lose your notes anymore.
Okay. Super. Thanks a lot. Danny, why don't you tell us a little bit about Danny clamps?
Danny clamps were in...
Quicker. Come on.
No, a lot of research went into it. A lot of it has to do with the memory of the pipe that I use. It has been researched and designed to have more memory than standard pipe. A lot of people think that standard PVC, this is a similar piece of standard PVC. You pull it and it loses its memory. It does not come together. Whereas the Danny clamps have memory manufactured in, so they always come back. And you can always snap them. And most of the fabricators I talk to, they said they love to hear this sound at the end of the day because they know the clamps are coming off the top.
Absolutely. How long do they last, Danny?
Too long.
Okay. No planned obsolescence?
They will outlast those metal clamps that everyone is using.
Although I got to tell you, folks, I saw my first Danny clamp break this week. Danny was doing a demonstration for me, and one of them broke.
Yep.
And he said, but it had been on the clamp for 2 years.
You use it, 2 years. It had been clamped on one of my sink clamp rails, and because being stretched for 2 years, it just got tired.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about what they do for us.
All right. One thing I found that most of the fabricators that have switched over to my system, that they have increased their production as much as one top or one kitchen a week. A standard company that was producing 4 kitchens a week have been able to increase their production by a full kitchen without adding shop space or employees by just switching how they fabricate. One thing that they do is to switch how they make edge treatment. What I do is I cut strips 1 1/16 inch, and then I glue them together on aluminum U-channel, but I have some fabricators that have made up a piece of MDF with laminate on it, and they glue all the strips together like this.
So you've got like a 12-foot extrusion?
Actually, it's 16 foot.
16 foot, okay. And that's something that is obtainable in most areas?
Right. Most aluminum suppliers will handle that.
Okay.
Now, what happens is every other strip gets glued together. Now, these are all separate strips in here. And all you do is you take one of the cove clamps and you put across this, couple clamps to hold it down to the rail. You got to make sure that you wax your platform before you put them on. Now,
so you're gluing 2 together, then no glue, 2 together,
yes,
no glue, and so on.
And then
10 strips wide.
Right. So then you end up with a strip final like this. You'll see the squeeze out on the back side. Now, what happens on this rail is that you'll have squeeze out. You'll need to hit it with a file, run it through your table saw, and then you'll end up with sticks like this to put on your deck. Now, there's an advantage to this because you don't have to worry about how thick your substrate is. Whatever substrate you buy, you can cut your front edge. The other thing is you're going to have a factory finish as your front edge. So all you have to router off is the 1/2 inch deck instead of a full 1 inch of material.
Makes sense.
So this is basically how you can do it. You can make up your own boxes. I have several fabricators that do that as long as it's flat and level. Some fabricators say, well, it takes longer, but it really doesn't because you got so much to do in solid surface work. The setup time and the time you save in routering and sanding, you can actually save about 35% on a kitchen and fabrication time by switching to this method. The other thing is you don't have to worry about your particulate going through the material like you normally do on a stack layered edge. And some fabricators will do one edge and another edge on top. which is very time consuming.
All right.
Also, we do a lot of things that can be done with Danny clamps that can't be done with any other clamping system. It will save you time in how you do things. This is a bevel edge. They actually make bevel edges with solid surface, and as a fabricator, I have put solid surface bevel edges on laminate tops because it's what the customer wanted. But the problem is with most bevel edges, you have to tape the edges to line them up. With Danny clamps...
These really work well, Danny. I don't hear you at all.
Oh, great. I'm glad. What you do, it has to have a strip in the front that is clamped, and you can have attached spacers, and you need a strip in the back with a 3/4 inch space. Now, if you move the distance...
Why do you need a 3/4 inch space?
Because
what determines that?
The 3/4 inch space will tell you where this clamp will clamp on the front edge.
So what this is actually doing is this is stopping this from rolling back.
Right.
Okay.
It pushes it forward. Now, if you want it to clamp farther down on an edge, let's say down here, you make the space smaller, and it will push it there. If you want it to clamp higher, you spread it out a little bit.
So you could just make long runs of these and just have them on the wall, and when you're going to glue up a bevel edge, you just set it on the top, clamp it in place, and you're ready to
right.
go. So you're talking seconds.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do that in my shop for all the edges. Now, the advantage is you put a clamp on. All you have to do is put your glue on the back side, you pull the clamp forward, you stick your edge on. Now, the advantage of Danny clamps over every other clamping method, including the tape, is you can't move your edge after you get about 30 pieces of tape on it. This way, with these type of clamps, you are able to move and align everything after you clamp it.
No matter how many you put on.
No matter how many you put on.
All right, that's a big advantage.
Now, if you wiggle them a little bit, they self-align automatically and your edge won't move at all. But you can feel right here, John, run your hand across there and feel how flush that is.
Oh yeah, that's perfectly flush.
And it will stay right there where you are all the time. It makes it extremely simple.
All right, let's set this one out of the way. We got a lot to do, so we got to keep moving right along. Ken's not here to keep me going.
Another thing is there's a lot of fabricators out there that do V-grooving. It's a very popular form of fabrication. I need to get a clamp back here.
Okay. All right.
Now, I had a lot of fabricators that use the tape. Some put a bar clamp across here and fold your edges up. It's a very simple way, no tape, no bar clamps, nothing. And all it takes is you sit here and put your adhesive in your line, break your edge over, fold it, put this clamp on here, put it on this rail, and you can adjust your tension by how high you rise this clamp up on your front edge. So if you think you're getting too much, you can push it down towards the bottom a little bit. This will give you a perfect miter fold edge every time, and it won't overclamp. I know a lot of fabricators have problems of breaking their tape because the guys have cranked the clamps too much. This is like the best and most perfect way.
And this keeps a constant tension on that as well. How many pounds are we looking at there approximately?
This is about 12 pounds.
Okay.
Where it is right now.
Now, what if they were to cut their top a little bit wider or a little bit narrower? How much is that going to be affected?
Well, on a wider top, if you have let's say a 30-some inch top, you can go the 8-inch clamp, and you've got the same. Even if you've got 7 inches here, you've got the same clamping pressure with the larger clamp. And if you need to, you can even go to the 12-inch clamp. These rails come for vanity size on the Cove and kitchen size. So there's one, the kitchen size is a little bit longer. They will increase your productivity because you don't have to mess around with all the turning clamps and stuff like that.
All right. Okay, what do we have next?
Set that over. We have how I do my edge treatment and how I save time.
We can slow up a little bit.
These are my strips. They usually are 10 or 12 foot long, depends on what the sheet material is. As you can see, this is the squeeze out on the back side. That will be my top side here. The factory finish will be my face side. All my decks are cut to an 1/8 of an inch or a 1/16 of an inch oversized. So all these pieces will be eyeballed set back to the front edge.
So these don't have to be run back through the table saw?
No, after you do it once, you just got to make sure that your rip fence is square with your T-fence. You run a board through it front to back, make sure it doesn't bind. So when you push the solid surface through at an even rate, you don't get back cuts on the back of the blade on the things.
Okay.
And as you can look to see that those are perfectly smooth, and yeah, you got to get your spectacles.
They are smooth. I can tell you that. Yeah,
all right,
that really is
what
nice.
I do is I cut these on a chop saw to length. Because my deck is oversized, I'll cut them right to length where I want them because I know they're going to be an 1/8 of an inch back. These are all 4 pieces. This is your radius cut out here for the radius. And then what I put is a little triangle gusset block in the inside corner, which is just a section of this, put on a chop saw and cut at a 45 on both sides. You set your, turn them upside down, clean everything, have everything scratched up. You put your adhesive on, you set, and you take your hands, and like anything you're going to do, you're going to be gluing a full 1 inch on. You slide it a little bit, make sure you got squeeze out. You put your second piece in and squeeze out on that. Now the secret of applying Danny clamps, which one thing that you can do is you can carry a lot of clamps on one arm at a time so you don't have to keep grabbing something. The other thing is they don't hold dirt. Everything falls out. When you apply a Danny clamp, it's very easy. You put the clamp on and you move your workpiece where you want it and you wiggle the clamp. When you wiggle the clamp itself aligns the top and the bottom of the clamp so your workpiece doesn't scoot on you. And you put like 2 clamps far apart on a corner like this, you take 2 like this. Now the other advantage to the clamps are that you're able to clamp entire countertops all the way around if you got a peninsula or island. Now what you do is you put your adhesive on your triangle block and it goes in the corner. Now I have a special clamp for that. It's a 90-degree corner clamp. And it goes in the corner and it pushes and aligns everything right at the same time.
Let me just tip this a little bit here, and so we can kind of maybe show a close-up of that. Can one of you guys get that? And you can just see the triangle in there. It's really amazing how everything just stays there. I mean, it's...
Yeah,
you know.
and then this corner, it's the same thing as you would apply it. You put it on, you wiggle it, you put it where you want it. Now, a lot of fabricators have problems with voids in their corners. If you have a void with Danny clamps, you push down on the clamp. It will push this workpiece forward, and you push in on the bottom of this, and it will actually push your corners together. But to improve and help out the inside this corner, I have a variable angle clamp which goes in here in the corner, and you can actually line up your stair step here on the edge of the deck, and you can move this back and forth so that you got exact space. Once you have everything on, you just sort of fill in the spaces, but remember to wiggle the clamps as you put them on. Now Danny clamps are stamped on the back side of the cutout, so all you have to do is look for the back side. And then here you can just stick a clamp in here, clamp the corner block, and you're done.
How many different sizes of Danny clamps are there?
4. And then there's the 2 order. There's a 4-inch, the 6-inch, and the 8-inch, and the 12-inch. But there is 2 6-inch clamps. I have one that has a cutout in it, and this is for edges from 3 inches to 7.5. And I can do this with this all day long, and nothing is going to happen.
Now, if you stretch this from 3 inches to 7.5, doesn't the tension increase?
Yes, it does.
Quite a bit?
Well, it's a progression of how an inch. You keep gaining 3 or 4 pounds each time.
Okay.
Now there are other.
So, Danny, how do you know when to go from one clamp to another clamp?
In my literature, there is a chart that shows what the clamping pressure is for every clamp at every distance that is recommended for each clamp. Now, in some instances, you might have a little whoop-de-doo in your deck. You need a little bit more clamping pressure. The nice thing about Danny clamps, you can take a cove clamp, put it over the top, and then you've got a clamp that's twice as strong.
Oh, wow, that's great.
So in any instances where you would need more clamping pressure, you're able to do it by double ringing, and in my case of my 12-inch clamps, triple ring them for 1-inch material, which we use on sinks. The other advantages are they won't mark your material. You can use them on everything. A lot of people with spring clamps have problems with getting little burrs on them, and they pull them off and they're scratching their deck. So then you're increasing your fabrication time. Now, the advantage to this system is you can router this with a bottom bearing bit and only taking off a 1/16 or an 1/8 of an inch of the deck material, which is a 1/2 inch thick. You router much faster. Once you put a 3/8 or a 1/2 inch round over or an OG on this, all you have to sand on this front edge is a very fraction of a glue line. Your front edge is already the factory finish, so you save almost 35% in sanding time by changing the way you do it. Plus, you don't have to worry about how thick your substrate is.
So then your buildup is always to your template line. That's your countertop size.
Right. Well,
so you're only ever routing a 1/2 inch of a material to bring it back into the template, or into the face of the edge.
Face of the edge, which that saves tremendous. Sanding is the biggest time consumer in fabrication. You eliminate most of the sanding, you eliminate most of your fabrication time.
By doing your edge vertical like this, don't you also eliminate the possibility of a bad joint showing?
Yes, you do. And a particulate changing in size where they're trying to, a lot of companies are sitting there taking an 1/8 of an inch off, so you keep the larger particles. This way, you've always got the large particles right on the face side. So why would anybody fabricate any other way? I mean, I know that's a pretty stupid question. Yeah,
but
I know it, and I get fabricators that say, well, I got to do 2.5 inches because the customer doesn't like seeing underneath the cabinets. Not many customers are on the floor. That's one out of 100 customers. And that 100th customer, I will paint the bottom of the substrate or put laminate or anything to do it this way. Doing 2.5 inch stack layered, you're throwing away a full square foot for every 12-foot material you're doing. I mean, if you waste 4 square feet on the front edge for making it wider, you're just throwing money away.
Okay, great. Well, I think we're about ready to go to break. When we get back, we've got more Danny clamps to show you and more to hear from Danny.